As AI accelerates and the pace of change intensifies, what are the human skills that will truly determine who thrives and who struggles in the future of work? Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we explore the leaders, ideas, and innovations shaping the future of industry. I'm your host, Dr. Leeanne Aguilar, and today I'm joined by David Powell, co-founder of The Golden Thread, a global media and education company helping people master practical life and people skills. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Yeah, likewise. It's an honor. I know you do some incredible work, and I'm really interested in learning more about it. So, David, take us back to the beginning. What personal experiences or early career moments shaped your mission to develop people and teams?
That's a good question. I guess I'll say that every time. Look, I think the best way to frame this, Leanne, is to go to Steve Jobs. He was a remarkable person, and he gave a very powerful graduate address at Stanford University. It's on one of our videos. And he believed everybody had a passion and a purpose in life. And his view, as a metaphor, he said, the way forward may look a bit foggy, he said, but if you look over your shoulder, you will see what he called formative dots, things that happened in your life. And you look back, you may not have realized it at the time. You look back and you go, ah. So if I look back over my shoulder, I think there's probably about 6 formative dots that I'll whip through as quick as possible. I studied chemical engineering at Edinburgh University. I actually got a first-class honours degree, which is quite something. But the point of that story, looking back, it helped me understand the physical world, matter, energy, space, and time, because engineering gives you that grounding. When I finished at Edinburgh in 1970, some friends and I spent a year driving a Land Rover overland from London to Australia. It was an incredible journey in terms of distance. You know, driving across the deserts of Iran and across central Afghanistan is not for the faint-hearted. But the point is, it introduced me to the various religions, you know, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and then in Malaysia and Singapore, the Chinese Taoism. And when I got to Australia, the animistic beliefs of our Aboriginal people here. And something happened, all those cultures in those countries. When I got to Sydney, a friend gave me a copy of a book, Ram Dass's Be Here Now. And I remember sitting there and it just blew my mind about this inner world that we all have. And I sort of thought, well, I've never been taught anything about that. My partner, now my wife Gabriel, and I started, for want of a better term, a long self-development journey. We went and stayed with a yoga teacher in Sri Lanka for 3 months. We went to Tibetan Buddhist monks in Switzerland. Yoga classes, meditation, books from, you know, A to Z, cassettes as they were, and lots of workshops. And so that self-development and my engineering analysis helped me, what's the right word, craft the metaphysical, the unseen world. And I ended up with this concept of the body, the mind, the emotions, and then the inner being, the spirit, who we really are. And it helped me structure approaches in my own life. In my career, I was in the oil and gas industry, and then I ended up in the computing industry. And when I got into general management, for the first time in my life, I had 150, 250 people whose performance affected my earnings. Because the company never had much training budget, I put the training manager hat on, took my general manager's hat off. It sounds self-serving, but we did about 150% of budget one year and about 200% of budget the next. And other general managers in the companies asked me to train their people. And of course, the company people, that's not your job. You're supposed to be a general manager. So in 1993, I quit and I formed my own training company. I realized that was my passion. And I didn't know the phone was going to go all over the world. And so I've been 5 continents, 30 something countries, hundreds of organizations, teaching basically people skills, self-people skills, teams, relationships, leadership, management, sales, customer service.
Right.
And so they're the break points, the dots when I look back.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. I mean, they say hindsight is 2020, right? But I like that the concept of dots, being able to look back at your life and identify those key moments like that really made a difference in your life. And I mean, that's fascinating, the journey that you took, that it took you to so many places and across the continents. And you got to understand and experience different cultures, like you said, different religions, which I
Yeah.
guess gave you that really broad worldly view, how people are and operate in different places and circumstances. And then I guess carry that into your work in organizations and being able to apply that there and relate to people on a deeper level, understanding that people aren't just numbers, but they are people with, mind, body, emotions, and spirit. And so relating to them on an individual level, which I'm sure helps them feel a lot more seen and heard and needed and appreciated. And so that makes sense that productivity would increase,
Yeah, exactly.
because
Uh,
of that. Uh-huh.
and maybe your listeners should pause and look over their shoulders and spot the dots. Everybody's got them. Once they get the metaphor that Steve Jobs introduced, everybody goes, oh, wow, yeah, that one, that one, that one. So I think we're all guided.
Right. Yeah. Now, over the last 30 years, what patterns have you consistently seen in organizations that thrive regardless of industry or geography?
Yeah, each of these questions is powerful. Look, one of the realizations I had was if you look at little kiddies, whether it's in the back streets of London or Sydney or up in a Himalayan village, the question is always, well, before they go to school and the matrix gets them, what do little kiddies love playing the most? And everybody goes, they love playing games. So my realization was that as adults, nothing's changed. We're just in bigger bodies. And my working principle is every person is looking for a game. Yes, they call it a job, but they want to be part of a game. And in fact, we can talk about this a bit later. Gen Y and Gen Z, the younger people, they are much more tuned in to what's the game. And so, dots again, somebody introduced me to the concept of the power of vision, and then I put the picture's worth 1,000 words. So the first thing I developed was, and I've done it with huge teams, developing a graphical vision, a pictorial vision of what the organization is aiming to achieve 5, 7, 15, even 20 years out. And another of the tools a colleague in America introduced me to was the concept of the graphical planning, that it's too hard to plan forward in time. It's a lot easier to go out to the horizon, the success horizon, the vision, and then go, what happened just before that? And you come back with graphical plans like rope bridges back across a river. So the short answer to your question is everywhere I went in the world, as an Arab bank in the Middle East or working with Rothschild here or IBM or AT&T in America, once the people were involved in getting the vision and once they were involved in the graphical plans, the energy was just through the roof. I've used the metaphor of a 16-cylinder engine. So I say, look, the body's important, but it's only worth 3 cylinders. The mind is important. Most people's minds run 7 by 24. They never stop. But it's only 3 cylinders because how we feel at work, the emotions is 5. And then whether the spirit feels alive is another 5. So what we're looking for is 16-cylinder performance. You ask most people in most organizations, how many cylinders have everybody on? They go, oh, maybe 5, 6 on a good day. When the game is clear, I can honestly say the 16 cylinders of everybody fire up. And the point is, especially if it's up on the wall, it stays fired up. So
Yeah.
I think they're the first two learnings.
Right. Well, everyone loves a good game, and I think that's why sports are so popular,
Exactly.
as
Exactly.
well. And I,
Exactly.
yeah, I like that perspective. So even looking at your career as a game,
Exactly.
your life as a game, what lessons are you here to master? So I think that introduces fun and challenge, and it lightens the mood. So yeah, you're not taking it so seriously, perhaps.
Well, it also helps looking out at the world of politics or turbulence or whatever you want to call this 21st century. If you stand back and go, what's the game? What's going on here? You can see the players, so it helps orientate the journey of life.
Yeah. Now, What drew you though into this work specifically? Like, did you see an opportunity in the market that convinced you that the golden thread really, needed to exist?
Well, what happened was I don't know the rest of the world. Once COVID arrived from memory, early 2020, the Australian government, the game players, were very severe. No travel, nothing. And so I'd lived my life on airplanes. I could go through most airports in the world blindfolded because I'd done it so many times. And people around the world go, "Well, this is awful, David. Can you put some stuff on video?" I've known Imelda for many years, my partner in Golden Thread. So we did just that. We went into the studio. Had I known it was going to take 5 years to build it and a lot more money than we had. But the point is, and the videographer I had, Rob, a young English guy, his father's the director of the BBC. I'd never met him. And Rob said, my father said, attention spans are now 10 minutes or less. So try and make each video 5 minutes. And so what we did, I was forced to use all this 30 years of experience. And that's where we got the self, the relationships, and the teams, which of course includes leadership and management. Put it all onto videos, did a learning guide, and people are going, oh, wow, this is really useful because it's concise and I can watch 5 or 7 minutes.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've watched the majority of your program, and I think you've done a great job capturing people's attention visually as well. I mean, it's a beautifully graphically illustrated, and they are short and concise and to the point. And
Yeah.
I think it's very relatable and easy to understand.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the aim. We shouldn't say this, but my colleague Imelda sat at the back of the room behind a pillar watching the screen, and I'd talk into the camera, and she'd go, "Stop!" The voice would go, "Stop, stop, stop! You can't say that in public." So then I'd say, "Well, what did I just say?" Because I'm always running on a string of intuition. So you see the finished item, the
Right.
stuff on the cutting floor, but I'm pleased if it talks to you. That was my aim, that it can talk to people all around the world who we may never meet.
Yeah. And you have worked with people around the world. So what have like the different cultures taught you about human behavior, communication, and leadership?
Yeah, it is there is a world of difference. We won't name names, but obviously in some cultures, deference to seniority is stronger than in other cultures. In terms of personality, some people are quieter, some people are more vociferous. In some cultures, women are supposed to be, inverted commas, subservient. So I get and respect all the cultures. And so some of the tools have proven really useful. One of the tools in terms of culture, in terms of teams, is this tool, I feel like saying. So if I'm rabbiting on and Leeanne, you're sitting there and you go, excuse me, David, I feel like saying, then the rule is everybody else in the room, including me, shut their big mouths and they open their big ears and their big eyes, and it gives you a chance to speak. If you've got a reserved person, say Susan's over there, and she just looks at me, I go, what is it, Susan? Well, David, I feel like saying, and then you can see on her face, you go, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. And Anthony goes, yeah, but shut up, Anthony, Susan. And there's this 20-second pause. And then Susan goes, I think everybody's missed this key area. Oh, God. Now, Susan would never have said that in a million years normally. And in some of the countries where women are not as strong as men, I'm tempted to give examples, I won't. The women have gone, excuse me, Mr. David. In a lot of countries, they call me Mr. David. Excuse me, Mr. David, I feel like saying. And all the men turn and glare. And I go, and the same. They say something, holy moly. So I think the answer is, where you've got the tools, Leanne, you can get respect and work within the culture. The key is to get everybody on 16 cylinders with respect for the culture of the organization and the religion.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So it's equipping people with skills that allows them to communicate, more effectively, to share their insights, and helps others to listen. Because I think listening is just as key to communication as sharing, as speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see, if you've got a graphical vision or success horizon and graphical plans on the wall, I can say, Susan, I know you don't want to do this. Can you go over and point exactly where on those plans there are fault lines? So, the tools all come together. The job, I think the job is to get the whole team on 16 cylinders. Then whatever the stormy weather, we got the fighting chance of getting through as a team.
Right. Yeah, because if people are sharing the same communication skills, then it's a lot easier to get them into alignment, going in the same direction and achieving
Exactly.
better results. Now,
Exactly.
so the golden thread teaches life and people skills we didn't learn at school. If you could redesign education for the modern world, what are the top skills you'd mandate?
If Imelda was behind the pillar, she'd go, careful what you say, David. You mustn't criticize the education system. But to answer your question, I would humbly suggest, learning how many wives Henry VIII had, or who was before Henry and who after. The modern world of AI searching databases, I don't think the education I would like to see is learning heaps of data and then repeating in exams. I think I'd rather see larger models of the evolution of our planet and of humanity. It's easy for me to say, well, there were 2.5 million years of hunter gathering. Our ancestors began in East Africa and walked all over the world, and they crossed from Russia to Canada because it was an ice age, and they walked all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. And then there was this agrarian age when people stopped hunting and gathering and settled, created pottery and carpentry. The bigger picture, and then a bigger picture of how humanity has changed, how we've mastered the technologies. So to me, it's more about a journey of life and where we've got to, and then the challenges we're facing. And of course, you gradient it. So the way you would teach a 5-year-old would be different to a 15-year-old. So I would like to see a bigger picture of life and work.
Yeah. And you've said technology can do many things, but it can't build trust or resilience. What are the most costly human skill failures you see inside of organizations today?
Yeah, you see, one of the things, how can I put this? This sounds critical as well. The stats say something like 97% of training has no long-term effect. People say most training is do have. Leanne, do these activities and you'll have these results. It's called first order. Second order goes deeper into be, do, have.
Mm-hmm.
So that the first is to who's Leanne, who's David, who are you as a being? Strengthen you as a being, then do these activities, however tough the market is, and you'll have these results. So I think because we don't get taught anything about our being at school, and we don't get taught in training courses at work, nobody really understands the power of intuition. Therefore, nobody really understands the power of judgment and discernment. Now, that may be okay in an industrial age, but in the information age, where it's coming at you over the internet, it's coming at you from social media, and now it's coming at you from AI, from ChatGPT and Claude. My concern is without that intuitive channel, without that sharpened discernment and judgment, which goes to the core of each person, there is a risk we're going to get mastered by AI rather than mastering the use of AI. I mean, AI is amazing. Fancy being able to search every database in the world in about 5.5 seconds or something insane. But the risk is not having the intuition, discernment, and judgment. That would be my short answer.
Yeah. So why do you think it is that intuition, discernment, and judgment are not taught? And is that true around the world in your experience? Is it not taught anywhere, or is it taught some places?
Yes, there's 8,000 million people on the planet. I've never come across a workshop that amplifies and hones intuition, because obviously behind intuition, there's this concept that we live in a intelligent quantum reality, back in the 1930s. the observer affects the observed. So if we live in a Newtonian universe that's cold and like a machine, doesn't really matter. But once you're into a quantum reality, this toing and froing. So I think everybody has intuition. All I'm saying is I think we should focus on it and encourage it because it's like the compass to navigate through the noisy world of the information age.
Right. Yeah. And do you think it's neglected just because people don't understand it? Because like you said, I think everyone would agree that, I mean, they have intuition. We've all experienced it. So
Correct.
why would it be neglected?
You could argue that, the first time there was compulsory state education was when the industrial age appeared. Everybody had to go to school, and the aim was to get a compliant workforce in the factory and the office. So intuition wasn't highest on the list because you've got to bolt the wheels on the car. It's not you think there should be five wheels or you think, black's not the color, Mr. Ford, we should have green. So I think in the industrial age, the education deliberately didn't emphasize it. What I'm seeing is I think now in this stormy information age, which is going to get even stormier with AI arriving, I don't think people have woken up to the dangers. And all I can say is because in the Golden Thread, we teach intuition, discernment, judgment. The people go, this is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
because
know,
I mean, I definitely like if you say, follow your intuition. People know what you're talking about, and because we've all experienced it,
exactly,
But it is
exactly.
curious. I just think it is interesting that it's not really focused on more or talked about because we all have experience. You get that intuition, and you're like, oh well, it saved me from this, or I should have followed my intuition. I had a feeling, but I didn't follow it. So yeah, I just think it is interesting that it hasn't been, I guess, focused
But
on
you,
more.
but you see, when you talk like that, Leanne, that's Leanne on 16 cylinders.
Uh huh.
And what we, the government, looking for is, Leanne, we want you to vote like this and pay your taxes. I'm not sure that having everybody fired up with intuition is going to benefit the bigger picture games that get played. And that's okay. But I'm saying if we all smarten up, then at least the games can become win-win and not win-lose. So
Yeah.
I think what you're asking is a pretty huge question.
Mm.
I'm going to say a simple answer. In anybody's organization, the performance of the individuals as individuals, relationships, and teams is better if the intuition's fired up.
Right. Got it. Yeah. When leaders hear soft skills, some still dismiss them. How do you reframe human skills as a hard business advantage, especially in high performance environments?
Yes, the term soft skills is really unfortunate because if we said it was people skills, then clearly there are very few organizations that can run optimally without people. And as I've said, in terms of our metaphorical 16-cylinder engine, body, mind, emotion, spirit, all fired up. I go around the world, at most organizations, you ask the staff without the management present, how many cylinders everybody fired up on every day? They go, oh, maybe three on a bad day, five average, seven if it's a really good day. So to the leaders who would say, look, David, I'm not really interested in soft skills. I want them to do the job. My first response will be, look, if you consider the metaphor of the 16-cylinder engine, body, mind, emotion, spirit, and most people, they won't tell it to your face, but most people will say we're on about 7 out of 16 cylinders.
Mm.
My suggestion is you're paying for 16 cylinders. Why not give the people skills, self-empowerment, relationships and teams, and get the vision, get the game plan clear, get 21st century leadership and management. So you're paying the same amount of salary, but you're getting double the firepower.
Right.
And that leaders spend money to either make money or save money. So I'm saying you pay the same amount of money, you get double the firepower and double the results. And then it's not so much soft skills, it's critical skills. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And why wouldn't any business want to do that? Because they're saving money and getting more efficiency and improving their people, and
Exactly,
that their
exactly.
people are benefiting. It's a win-win situation, all the way around.
Yeah, and I think the point is before we go on, because of this tsunami of AI as well as noise of social media, if you don't hone the people up, so they're on 16 cylinders aligned with your game plan, the game plan of the vision and strategies of your organization, then they're going to be afflicted more by the noise than they are at the moment.
Mm,
Conversely, if we power them all up on 16 cylinders, it's like your ship's getting rigged to go into a storm and the crew are all storm ready. That would be
yeah.
my answer to the soft skills are not relevant.
Yeah. So they're ready. Equip your people. Now,
Yeah.
with AI, like you mentioned, becoming a daily workplace tool, what do you believe will separate high performers from everyone else's, skills, mindset, or behaviors?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're touching on the same subject, and I mean, I've seen that. Yeah, my elder son James uses Claude. I use ChatGPT. I am in awe of what these AI engines can produce. However, you start to see, I don't even know what the right term is, biases.
Hmm.
ChatGPT will use the word leadership a lot. It often deletes the word management. ChatGPT will talk about real organizations. And I'm going, well, I don't think I've ever worked in an unreal organization. So they're minor uh, um, suggestions, minor examples of where we need to look at what the AI has produced and then go, okay, if 95% of this is right on the button and 5% could be nonsense, I, Leeanne, or I, David, have now got to edit this. And I already, you must be see the same, we're getting emails and stuff, and you could see it's 100% AI and nobody. So I think if we don't get the workforce awake to the fact that AI is a machine language, AI does not have intuition. AI is not part of the quantum energy field. The observer affects the observed. Werner Heisenberg, 1934, whatever. It's a machine. It's an amazing machine, and it's an and. It's not a, oh, well, we can all ease off. AI can do it all. Does that make sense? This is pretty serious stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tool and it's not meant to replace people. It's there to help us help enhance our work, make things more efficient, but it doesn't replace people. It's not an actual person. And so we do have to, right, treat it as such and not completely just depend on it and, let our minds stop, stop because
Yeah.
we become dependent on it, I suppose.
And I mean, you look, I mean, some of the younger people wouldn't remember before word processing or before spreadsheets. But, the very concept of word processing and spreadsheet, mind boggling. Nobody would want to go. But when I did my university degree, we had slide rules. Nobody would want to go back there. And so I'm not saying for a moment that these AI amazing, and they're only going to get more and more powerful. It's just we need to learn to use them.
Yes, exactly. And we're using them and we're managing them. And so, keeping that in
Exactly.
mind, knowing how to use them to our highest advantage and
Exactly.
yeah. Now, tell me more about your program CREW. I know CREW stands for Competent, Resilient, Engaged Workforce. What specific behaviors change when a workforce truly becomes CREW aligned?
Yeah. Well, this is where what I said earlier about second order change be, do, have. Crew starts off with self, and it's pretty. This sounds self-serving. It's pretty powerful. Who are you? Why are you here? What do you want to achieve? Who's going to help you? This is how intuition works. However, people are going, what? What? What my one of my sons, his partner, she goes, what? I never thought about any of those questions, David. You just blown my head off. So the first part of crew, and that's why, we're saying don't try and watch all these videos in a week. Maybe just watch one video and just sleep on it because you may not know it. It sounds self-serving. This is a dot. And you'll look back 10 years ago, you think, wow, I'm pleased I watched that video. So the first part's waking the individual up. Then, of course, you go relationships. Well, how come Henry is so different to Amanda? Nobody's taught us how to read somebody. Is Leeanne more warmly people, more coolly task? Is Leeanne active or is she quieter? Within 10 seconds, you get tools for how to approach someone. And I've had people go, oh my God, David, I'm working with the team like I've never worked before. This is amazing. Why wasn't I taught this at school? Why wasn't I given this early in my career? So these relationship videos change working relationships in days or weeks. And then the team, how do you create a win-win team? And of course, it covers vision, culture, assertion, the I feel like saying. So what I've seen is you put those self-relationship team skills and you embed them, the whole thing changes.
Yeah. And I don't see it as self-serving because I know you've heard, the analogy like with the oxygen from the airplane. If it drops down, you have to put your own on first, and then you
Yes,
can help other people. So it's like you
yes,
have to fill up your own cup and be full
exactly.
within and really know who you are and be complete within yourself, I think, before you can really make a contribution, to
Absolutely.
others. And so
Absolutely.
I actually think it empowers people to be their best selves, which in turn, by being their best selves, they become more valuable to a team and an organization.
And of course, the problem is the noise is we've got Western science and medicine going, no, 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 David's talking nonsense. Who you think you are, Leanne, is an epiphenomenon of your brain chemistry. So when your body dies, there's no more Leanne. All this talk about you're a metaphysical being, that's nonsense. So there's a lot vested in the game of actually, and what you need to do is take this medicine, these chemicals. So it's not, oh, I didn't know. There are two conflicting models. Western medicine and science, you're an epiphenomenon of brain chemistry, thousands of years of Gnostic wisdom behind all the religions. No, you're not. You're a metaphysical being incarnated. So, this is pretty deep and it's very powerful.
Yeah. Now, Crew integrates body, mind, emotion, and spirit. Why is addressing all four essential? And what happens when companies ignore one of them?
Yeah. Well, you see, I think the do have, the shallow stuff, Leanne, just do this, and you have the results. As soon as a storm happens, or the phone goes, you forget everything you were told to do. You revert to your gut instincts. And so I think unless I'm talking to every leader and manager in the world out there, unless we strengthen our people, as soon as the wind blows violently at home or at work, they'll lose the plot. If we strengthen them first, they go, oh, look, you think gale force winds are going to trouble me and my team? So it's fundamental to navigating into these clearly stormy, turbulent 21st century waters.
Yeah. Now, your model also combines online learning with coaching to embed change. What have you learned about why people consume content but don't always change behavior?
Yeah, I think the point is, as I said a bit earlier, just watching the videos is great. However, it raises a lot of questions. No organization can afford the money or the time to send everybody, the whole workforce, to regular workshops and regular coaching. So what we found is, let's say we say to someone, watch one video a day, and then once a month, we'll have groups of 5 people online for an hour. And the point is, let's talk about what came up in those previous 4, at maximum 8 videos. What do you get? What don't you get? That ability to talk through is just proving gold dust, because people who just watch videos go, oh, I wish there was somewhere we could talk about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The training video contains the seeds of empowerment. The group coaching, because it's very cost effective online once a month, over 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, you've got a growing journey. And of course, that's what young people in business want now. They want involvement, they want empowerment. So it
Right.
works both ways.
Yeah, and I think you can also get a better idea of how it's implemented, how to implement these tools and these skills when you're talking it out in a group. And you can talk about your experiences implementing the skills. And listening to other people, I think, always gives more insight, or listening to other people talk about their own experiences as well. And you can get more ideas of how to use the skills and how to become more effective as a team as well. So I think
Yeah.
that group dynamic has a lot of power and advantage benefits. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only caveat I'd say we found in the past, if you widen up the scope of the group too wide, people are a bit loath to talk about their personal issues in front of their colleagues. But
Uh,
if you say, look, we're only going to talk about the content of the 4 videos you've watched in the past 4 weeks, then can you see like there's a structure that nobody needs to deviate off outside of that in what might or might not be going on in their life at the moment?
yeah. Huh, that's interesting, but yeah, that makes sense. And I think of like the online groups I've been involved with, like oftentimes I'll be a big group, maybe a group of 100, but then like for more of the one-on-one personal conversations, we'll have breakout groups and
That's it.
then smaller groups that then you share with, and you get a lot more, or you're able to share on an individual level, but then I think people are more compelled in the smaller groups to
Yeah.
share. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then what we say to people is the management, look, that everybody ought to have the ability to say, can I please have a one-on-one? Like you can't, now you know they've got a real issue, inverted commas, real issue, then we can't let it go. So, but it has to be one-on-one. So how many times is somebody going to use that trigger? Once every 3 years or something. But to know that they can talk to someone if they need to is hugely valuable.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Now, you also have a program called Leo, which supports teens and young adults. What are the biggest challenges you see facing young people today, and how does Leo build resilience, confidence, and purpose?
That's a good question. Let me explain the origin of Leo. When we were doing the early work, unknown to us, Imelda and I, our videos, our crew videos, found their way into families, employee families. Some of the teens were in real trouble. Some were suicidal, not unknown to us. And they watched the videos, and the parents fed back that within 1 to 3 to 5 weeks, they totally changed from I've had enough of this planet, I'm leaving, which is a horrendous state, to I now know what I want to do. And, I've heard stories of teenagers getting up at 5 a.m. to go running. And so it clearly touches young people. I don't think it's, say under 13 are too young. But the point is, and we go back to the earlier thing about what's ideal education, you must be the same where you are. There's all these people walking around with a phone. They walk out across the road, they don't see a red traffic light, they're like zombies. The
Right.
noise avalanche of social media is just horrendous. And if the parent or the parent and the teen can watch a few of these videos, which is what we're working on now in the communities, and we start to rescue them from the onslaught. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It just starts to shift their perception a little bit, shift their mindset, open them up to some different possibility. And ultimately, I mean, I know your program is about transformation.
Yeah,
It's about transformation of mindset. But yeah, it starts with just cracking the shell though, right? It's just
yeah.
introducing them to something different
And I,
possibilities.
yeah, I've got passionate colleagues who want to try and get the videos into the education system. You know, it's a huge issue, Leanne, and we can't walk away from it. So
Yeah.
Leo is our lighthouse of young person empowerment to try and get some sanity back into their lives.
Well, it's certainly needed. I definitely agree with you. Yeah. Now, for an executive listening right now who wants to improve retention and engagement, what is the first practical step you recommend to begin shifting culture?
Yes, from the feedback we've had from the markets around the world, attracting caliber people, as it's not true in India, but where the workforce is actually growing with young people. But in most parts of the world, as the baby boomers retire, the actual workforce is shrinking. And therefore, anybody looking for a job has got more choices than they may have had 5 or 10, 15 years ago. So the first challenge is attracting caliber people. Then the second is retaining them. Then there's got this Gen Y, Gen Z, how do we integrate them? And then this AI. So I would suggest the first step is what can you do in your organization to make your job offer more attractive than maybe some of the others? Now, this sounds self-promoting, but I'll say it anyway. If you can look them in the eye and say, mate, we've got this online people skills empowerment program, shows you how to strengthen you, how to work with other people and in teams. You can use it here. We do. You can use it with your friends and your family, and it doesn't cost you anything because we're paying for it. And you get coaching once a month for the rest of the time you're here. Our companies B, C, and D offering you opportunities like that, maybe the same job, same pay. And I can guarantee you they're not. So
Right.
there's a magnet attraction. And once they're on and they see this is what we call in Australia a fair dinkum, it's real, they're not going to go to company B or C for 5 or 10,000 quid more because they know B and C are not looking after their journey. So, as I say, it sounds like a cheap sales call. I would say get everybody on the Golden Thread Crew program. It's a magnet in and it's a magnet to hold the people in. Or is that a bit crass? That's my
Yeah,
view.
right. No, yeah. So it's a added benefit. It's something
Yeah,
that, right, it helps a company stand out by offering it to their employees because it's, again, a tool that can help their employees become empowered and develop themselves and in turn helps the organization.
exactly. My colleagues who are in the industry say there are other people, other companies who have training videos. There are other people who have coaching, but it's basically one-on-one for senior management. What they say at the moment is there's no other company in the world other than Golden Thread that offers videos and group coaching on a cost-effective basis. Now, obviously, that will change, but it's something that we can offer that the
Mhm.
manager or the owner of the business knows that his competitors or her competitors are not offering. That's my answer to that.
Yeah. And how do you help organizations integrate multiple generations? Like you're saying, the Gen Z through baby boomers, so differences become fuel for performance rather than friction.
Yeah, well, we're still working on that. I've got work with a team of coaches. The feeling is, and it's getting reflected, some of our clients, it may be better to have groups of Gen Y and Gen Z together in the group coaching so that the way the coach works with them is different to the way they might react if there's Gen X or even baby boomers on the call. So I think because Gen Y and Gen Z, as I said, are going from 50 to 100% of the workforce over the next 20 years, let's get optimum coaching of Gen Y and Gen Z. So as they move forward, they've got everything they need to be supervisors and then managers.
So would you have different approaches for the different generations, like in the coaching? Would you actually separate them out or you would integrate them on the call and
I
just,
I think we're tending towards separate. We've
okay.
had quite a number of older people going, this is really for the younger people. I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't need these skills, but the younger people all do. So our tendency is at the moment to give them a separate window.
Hmm.
If you and I are talking in 6, 12, 18 months again, we may have some honing, but that's what it's looking like is the best way to do it.
Okay. So it'd be separate coaching calls for the different groups of
For the
people.
different ages. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people may go, no, 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 I want, and maybe you do that for 6 months and then integrate. I don't know because, nobody's tackling this effectively yet. We're out there on the front edge
Right.
and I'm happy. We're totally flexible of how any business manager wants to do it.
Yeah. Now, David, finally, if you look ahead 5 to 10 years, what do you hope organizations will do differently to build healthier teams? And what will be the cost for those who don't?
Yeah. Look, I think the previous things we've dialogued paint the picture. For the metaphysical reasons we won't go into, Gen Y and Gen Z are different and they want the game plan. So I think that the organizations now that start to build an empowering gay plan will pull the best Gen Y and the best Gen Z, and they'll stay and perform. And the ones that don't will find themselves out in the stony desert. I think it's pretty blunt because,
Hmm.
again, you've got to have empowered people to handle AI. You either empower your people, especially the young people, and flourish into this complex world, or you're going to get in desert and stony soil.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you for a powerful conversation and for doing the work you're doing.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your questions. It's all I would leave you with is say, look, I think we all have to do something. I can't see us rolling on another 50 years with the young people in the state they are, and so many of the workforce people. So this is vital. So thank you for the opportunity. And obviously, if anybody wants to talk, we're happy to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for listeners who do want to learn more about the Golden Thread or explore Crew or Leo or connect with you about bringing these programs into their organizations, where can they reach you or where should they go?
Yeah, so it's our email. My suggestion is email you or email us and David at thegoldenthread.com, and then we'll set up a Zoom. I prefer Zoom, and the talk would be it's reconnaissance. I've done a lot of talking on this call, but what I want to know is what's their game, what's their challenges, and then we will make constructive suggestions. I think it's easier done on a Zoom call than it is on emails. So
Hmm.
David at thegoldenthread.com, and we'll take it from there.
Great. And to everyone listening, please, if you enjoyed this episode, share and subscribe and tune in to the next episode of Industry Ignited. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.